So PayPal, they have decided to join forces with I'm just going to read you the headline. PayPal working with Anti-Defamation League on research into funding for extremist groups. Okay? And I just want to quote Glenn Greenwald on this. He said, I think this week's most overlooked is the partnership between ADL and PayPal to exclude people from using the online payment processor, a major step toward denying people not just online speech, but participation in banking, if not ADL compliant. So let's go through this, okay? Let's go through this. They say that they want to do research aimed at exploring how extremist or hate groups are funded. And in a statement Monday, ADL said the research will look into how extremist or hate movements use financial platforms to fund their activities. Both that organization and PayPal say the result of their research will be shared within the financial industry, policymakers, and law enforcement. Quote, by identifying partners across sectors with common goals and complementary resources, we can make an even greater impact than any of us could do on our own. Okay? And that's PayPal saying that. And they're saying, as part of the initiative, PayPal and ADL will form a coalition with civil rights organizations to protect marginalized communities from extremism. And, you know, PayPal is supposedly going to crack down on funding extremist groups and so on. So, I mean, it's a conflicting message because on one hand, they say it's just research. And then on the other hand, they say PayPal is going to crack down on that. What does that mean? And the more important question here is who defines extremist? Because just to give you a anecdotal example, okay, the United States government under Trump and Obama, actually going back to Obama, but ramped up by Trump and even under Biden. So the U.S. government has sanctions on Syria, okay. It also has sanctions on Iran, and many of you are very kind and have sent me messages, have sent me donations on PayPal with a message or a note mentioning Syria, right, where I was born. And so PayPal has a filter apparently, and because some of you put Syria in the note, I'm not kidding. Like, they regularly do this. They still do this. They will take the payment aside. So I can't read what you wrote. Like, they censor the note, they take the money, and they review it for a few days. Sometimes it takes over a week, 2 weeks, I don't know. And in some cases, they even just sent it back. It's like, okay, I mean, that kind of blows, but, you know. And I'm assuming, I mean, no one has confirmed this to me, but I'm assuming it's because of the sanctions, right? They think that, well, you know, we don't want people using PayPal to help people in Syria because, you know, why would, you know, they want to comply with the U.S. government. This is how sanctions work. It affects, it affects civilian populations by cutting them off from all services, banking, commercial. And so companies, other banks, even governments become afraid to deal with the targeted party. And so they will, completely cut them off and isolate themselves because they don't want to deal with it. And this is obviously, very, very contemptuous for moral reasons and ethical reasons. And why I'm telling you this is because I'm trying to explain how a measure that is, a very unfair measure, an immoral measure, unilateral sanctions are illegal. They kill people, they starve people. And it's nonetheless being used in a way that has nothing to do with the people targeted by the sanctions. I mean, of course, my cousins, I've said, who are living there, yes, but when, people are donating to support independent media and they mention Syria, and there's nothing to do with it. And nonetheless, it's getting caught in the filter, right? So another thing that happened afterwards is that PayPal and Venmo, they locked my account. They locked it because someone said Syria in a message. So not only were they taking payments, they locked it. I was like, what? And that's what it was. And then I wrote to them, and PayPal said, can you explain the word Syria? Like, what is there to explain, you heathen? What is there to explain? And when I look at this with the ADL, I mean, for those of you who are uninitiated with what the ADL is, the ADL is basically an organization that calls anyone who criticizes Israel anti-Semitic. That's not all they do, but they're known for that. And they do it unfairly, right? Obviously, you have people who are genuinely anti-Semitic and also criticize Israel. But most people who criticize Israel, the country, and its political, policies and laws and foreign policy, they're not anti-Semitic. They just don't like what this occupation is doing. And so they come and they call people extremists and anti-Semites. And so can you just imagine what that means? Like, if they get to decide what extremist means in this case, I mean, what does that mean? It's going to include anyone who criticizes Israel? Who knows? I just showed you how for mentioning the word Palestine or Syria or Iran, they will like take away the payments. What do you think this is going to be? Now, obviously, I don't want to fearmonger too much. I mean, they're not really elaborating on what they're going to do. In terms of extremism, I got nothing to fear. None of us have anything to fear. But according to them, if you criticize Israel, maybe you're an extremist. Who knows? Who knows? You know, look at what they did to Jeremy Corbyn, right? They drove him out of the Labour Party. They called him an anti-Semite because he defended Palestinians. I don't know how they use and interpret this in this context. Who knows? Does that mean journalists who cover Israel critically, they can't use PayPal? What does that mean? What does that mean? Given their sensitive filters regarding U.S. sanctions, given their blanket, chastising and maligning and unfair characterizations of people legitimately criticizing Israel as being racist. This is obviously it's not it's not a very promising joint partnership, right? I want to just read you something else that Glenn wrote over here. He continues underneath and says, the ADL, despite the pretense of merely opposing anti-Semitism, is a very ideological group with its own extremist views. But we're moving toward a society in which large tech corporations empower liberal NGOs to dictate who can participate in civil society based on ideology. And this is very true. This is very true in many aspects, right? Because you're seeing, not just with PayPal and the ADL in this case, but, things like the Biden administration pressuring, we'll get to pressuring in a second. They just admitted already that they're doing it. So the Biden administration admitted it works with Facebook in order to try and ban, people it considers spreading misinformation. Again, who gets to decide what misinformation is? And if that wasn't bad enough, the state working with private corporations, what does that remind you of? Fascism. And if that wasn't bad enough, they're saying they want to deplatform people from all social media. So if you did something that they don't like on Facebook, they want to ban you from everything. They might take away, your... Who knows, man? I was trying to make a joke. Never mind. But seriously, do you see the goddamn dangers that this poses? Why this is bad when you have the government pressuring social media companies, tech companies, whether, again, Facebook or PayPal, whatever, pressuring them into banning people with, blanket accusations like misinformation. Who gets to decide what that is? Sometimes criticizing the United States, they consider misinformation. When Hunter Biden's laptop thing, the scandal happened, Biden himself and Hunter Biden never said that what was on the laptop was fake. And yet you had people in the media and the intelligence agencies rushing to say, oh my God, it's Russian disinformation. But it's not. It's genuine. Not even the Bidens are denying that. And they nonetheless said anyone who posts this misinformation, anyone who spreads this story, Russian misinformation. They even locked the New York Post account. So do you see where we're heading? I think you get the idea and why this is bad and why this is dangerous, where you have tech companies bowing to political pressure from the government and other, parties. This is really not ideal, to say the least.